This is Tony Kent, and this is another episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines. And for once, I'm glad that it's called Cross-Examines, because I can't call it Tony Kent Writes and Interviews, because I'm about to speak to somebody who used to do that for a living, and I would therefore be quite embarrassed to try to compare myself in terms of asking questions. So today we have got the brilliant Scottish author Neil Broadfoot, described by Ian Rankin recently as a true rising star in crime fiction, which is something I'm sure Neil is very pleased to hear. Neil is the author of two series. The first is the Doug McGregor series, which was a trilogy starting I've written these down at the bottom down here. We'll come back to that. Begin with the storm, basically. Falling Fast, the storm, pardon me. But more importantly, for my purposes, he is also the author of probably my favourite current series, which is the Connor Fraser series, which began with No Man's Land, has continued this year with No Place to Die, and will continue later this year with yet another release in hardback of The Point of No Return. I've read two of them. I'll be reading the third very, very soon. Neil, how are you doing?
Not bad. Yourself? Thank you for the intro.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm sorry that I got mixed up as I was doing it. I also I forgot to say All the Devils, which is the third of the trilogy of Doug McGregor.
Don't worry about it. I've got so many at the moment, I forget myself.
Yeah, I'm really struggling to keep up with your output at the moment. Or I'm seeing a lot of I'm writing this, I'm editing that, and I keep thinking, which ones? I mean, there's so many of them. That's
the thing about being on a 1 year a book a year cycle, is that I'm editing next year's book now, but I'm dealing with the book that's out in September as well, and then I'm talking about No Place to Die, which has just come out. So being on a year, it really messes with your brain.
Now, I'm in exactly, as you know, I'm in exactly the same boat. It's a question you've just got more out than I have, because God knows what will happen once I've got 5 or 6 to talk about. Then it just becomes wholly confusing. But in your case, that would be 5 or 6, but in 2 completely different series.
Yeah.
So you began with Doug McGregor, and Falling Fast, I think, was a massive success, wasn't it? You were nominated for several awards.
Yeah, I was nominated for the Dundee International Book Prize and the Bloody Scotland, the Deanston Award as it was, because it was sponsored by, appropriately enough, Deanston Whiskey back then. So they called it the Deanston Bloody Scotland Book of the Year Award. And that was my debut, which was shortlisted for both of them, which I suppose is it's an interesting way to make an opening statement when you're trying to start a writing career.
No, it really is. I mean, so the one the Book of the Year Scotland, Bloody Scotland Award. Bloody Scotland, for anyone who doesn't know, is just an incredible festival set in Stirling, and Stirling is very important to Neil's writing, as we'll discover shortly. Bloody Scotland is a fantastic festival, which is very sadly just been cancelled for this year, for obvious reasons, for the same reasons that Neil and I are both sitting here in our kitchens or our writing rooms, and neither one of us able quite clearly to get anywhere near a barber. Bloody Scotland's been closed been cancelled for this year because of the COVID-19 lockdown. But that particular festival, was that the nomination for a debut award, or was it actually for Book of the Year?
No, it was Book of the Year. Basically what happened was I'd spent years trying to get published, like a lot of people, and I couldn't get published. And it was just when James Oswald, I think you know the name, had massive success with the McLean series. Yeah. And he'd been snapped up for a 6-figure deal out of nowhere. And I didn't know James at this point, and I wrote a very long email saying, "Dear Mr. Oswald, how did you do this? Blah, blah, blah," grinding my teeth as I did it. And to his credit, he came back to a complete stranger and said, "Here's how you do it. Do this, 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 and this. And that's how you e-publish your books." And I was that close to e-publishing Falling Fast. And then I got a call saying, "You've not published Falling Fast, have you?" "No." "Good, because some published works that go to the Dundee International Book Prize." Shortlisted for that.
Yeah.
Then I got a phone call. So that Falling Fast came out, and then I got a phone call from my publisher at the time. And I remember it clearly. I was putting the bins out of all things, and my phone went. So "I've got one word for you, Deanston." And it didn't connect in my head. I just said, "Yeah, very nice whiskey. You sending me a bottle?" "No." "No, you've been nominated for the Deanston Award." And that was with people like Chris Brookmeyer, Denise Mina, and little old me. And I'm sitting there thinking, hold on, what happened here? And I thought it was a mistake. But no, that's how it all started. And then it just kind of took off from there.
As you say, it's a hell of an announcement of yourself, isn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, it gave me a level of publicity and a profile that I wasn't expecting, especially given that Falling Fast was with Contraband, which is a small imprint, it's a small publisher.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting anything. I'd just done enough I made a promise that I would dedicate my first book to my gran.
Yeah.
I got a book deal. The book was on shelves. That was it. I was happy. And then suddenly it went from this to, oh, you're up here now.
Yeah.
But the problem was with that, the publisher then came back and said, right, you've done very well with Falling Fast. Go and do it again.
Yeah.
And I had no idea, because I don't plan to do anything. It's just lucky that an incident came along, which was the start of the storm.
Yeah.
And it gave me an idea, completely based on fiction, of course.
No, of course.
You know,
there's nothing true in there at all. The storm is because Doug McGregor was not a million miles away from yourself then, was he, in terms of life experience?
No, he was a reporter because, as I say, I don't plan my books, and I was so frustrated about trying to get a book published. I was walking through Edinburgh and the Scott Monuments in the centre of Edinburgh in Princess Street Gardens, back in the time when people could go out and congregate in gardens and stuff. And it was a beautiful summer's day. I was walking around thinking, how am I going to get published? How am I going to get published? And me being me, I thought, right, I'm going to take somebody and I'm going to throw them off the top of the Scott Monument. And I'll see what happens. Yeah. But all I had was that one scene of the body landing, and that was it. Yeah. So I went home and I wrote it, and then I just basically attacked it as a journalist would attack it. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. And that gave me the story.
Yeah.
But I was winging it.
It's a great way to write. I mean, I'm as you know, I've had to abandon the book that I was writing as my fourth book, because it was basically COVID-19 and a slightly more extreme version, and start again. And I'm somewhere in between. I don't have quite the ability to do what you've just said, which is just one scene and get going. Yeah. I normally have a one-line idea. I've got a load of one-line ideas on a sheet of paper or on a file, and I pick one. And it's one line, and it will say who the main character is. And then I spend about 2 months thinking about it. I just walk around thinking about it. I don't write anything down. I just walk around with it in my head and let it percolate for 2 months. And then I can sit down and start writing. Whereas you seem to have the ability just to sit down with that one line and go. No, I don't have that. So, I mean, I'm very jealous of that, because that's what's slowing me down currently with the rewriting of book 4.
I'll let you into a secret. It's not ability, it's deadlines.
Oh, fair enough.
Because I will procrastinate. The house, I mean, even with the lockdown, I've never done more DIY than I have at the moment, because I know I've got to start. The dogs have never looked better or been better walked. Cars have never been cleaner, because I know. But then I'll get to the point that I'm so close to deadline, I've just got to do it. But I think
I completely appreciate that. I understand that.
That's the journalist in me. If I've got a deadline, I can hit it and I can do it. If you give me too much time, I'll just sit and do something else. Yeah.
No, fair enough. So that's the Doug McGregor trilogy. Yeah. But then you've moved on. You're not going back to Doug McGregor, are you? Is there any plans to go back and write? You are. I didn't know that.
I've got the rights back to them now, so I'm publishing them digitally. And I've had a lot of feedback from readers saying, when's the next one coming out? Can you tell us? So I'm going to try and fit one in next year. I've got the idea. It's just I've got to sit down and actually write it. So they're coming back.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I didn't know that, because obviously you've now thrown yourself headlong into Connor Fraser. Yeah. And as I said, I think probably my current favourite series of books.
Thank you very much.
You were kind enough to send me The Point of No Return. So everybody who's watching this, I'm going to get to read that way before you guys, which will be very, very, very soon. It's sitting on the computer in a not very long list. It's kind of found its way to the top of it. But Connor Fraser, where did Connor Fraser come from?
Bloody Scotland, the festival we were talking about. It was one of those things that, again, they say that luck is a big part of this game, and that's completely what happened with me. I was in Stirling for Bloody Scotland. There's an annual football match of Scotland v England crime writers up at the top of the town at a place called Cowan's Hospital, which has a very old bowling green beside it, and that's where they play the game. And it was a beautiful day. I'm sitting watching everybody running around, and the thought suddenly occurred to me, this would be a great place to dump a body. Okay.
Which is a normal thought, isn't it? I mean, that's the kind of thing that just occurs to anyone.
I'm a nice guy, really, although everybody's probably very glad that we're on lockdown and I can't get out of my house just now after hearing that. And then,
in your living room, this is a great place to dump a
body. And then I just had this idea. The idea just kind of took root, and it was, okay, you could dump a body here. Better yet, what if you decapitated the body right, where are you going with this? Okay, there's an idea. And I just went for a walk around Stirling. And as I walked around, I suddenly started seeing the place in a different light of, well, nobody's written a series here. You've got all this history button up against a modern city. You know, it's in the centre of Scotland. Okay, what have you got here? And I just, as I walked around, I started to see the place. I had a rough idea of that first scene. I went away and I wrote it. And then I met my now publisher from Constable that night, who said, we really like your work, but we can't take you mid-series with Doug and Susie. Have you got another idea? Oh, well, as it happens, I just had this idea about a decapitated body in Stirling today. Do you want to hear that? And before I knew it, Connor Fraser was born and No Man's Land came along.
I mean, it's as I say, it's a fantastic series. But Connor Fraser is a fantastic character. I mean, he really is. He's up there with Jack Reacher. I mean, I know that's high praise, but he is up there with Jack Reacher in terms of a protagonist. You can see how a series can really. I mean, I can see that being an endless series. I think Connor Fraser Adventures I would read all day long. So where did he come from?
Again, he was a kind of merger of, I needed somebody. When I wrote the start of No Man's Land, which was the first thing I wrote was the chapter of they find the body and the heads on the spikes swinging in the breeze. It became pretty apparent pretty quickly that it was going to be a very violent book and there was going to be some pretty nasty people in that. And after Doug, I wanted to get to somebody who was more decisive and more physically capable.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, right, okay, who's got that level of training in the UK? The only people who are regularly dealing with firearms in the UK, regular officers, is Police Service in Northern Ireland, and they get advanced training in other matters as well. Okay, I spent a lot of time in my youth in Belfast. This is a chance to write about Belfast. Let's go to Belfast. So that was basically it.
Always a good excuse to go to Belfast.
Exactly.
Because a great bars.
Research trips down into the cathedral quarter and a few pubs.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all I had. And he just kind of grew because I was just kind of feeling my way through the story. As certain things happened, Connor just kind of developed from there. Yeah. And I seem to have, luckily enough, hit something that people seem to have liked.
I know you. I mean, you really have. It's hard. It's impossible for any of our characters to be unique. I mean, there's crossovers between my character Joe Dempsey and Connor Fraser. They've both got crossovers with Jack Reacher, and then we have is it John Puller in the Balducci books, who has a crossover with everybody. But it's impossible to be unique. But it's also somehow you've managed to give him a voice of his own. So there is a voice of his own that makes him Connor Fraser, and rather than Jack Reacher Mark II. And I think that's really key, and I think that's something a lot of people fail to do. So, I mean, the fact you've managed to do that, it's not luck. I mean, God, there's no luck involved in that. It's how you've written them, and they are excellent books.
Well, thank you. And if I figure out how I'm writing them, I'll let you know what the secret is, because I just sit down and go and hope for the best.
And so, No Place to Die is the most recent one.
Yes.
Obviously, Point of No Return is coming out in September.
Yes.
And anybody would be mad. I've not read that one yet, but you'd be mad not to buy that. No Place to Die I have read. It's every bit the equal of No Man's Land, which is one of my favourite books in the last few years.
Thank you.
How's it going? How's No Place to Die going? I'm assuming you're getting some pretty good feedback.
Yeah. I actually thought that I was going to be in real trouble because we'd had all this sorted out for the paperback launch of No Place to Die. And we'd had it, well, you and I and the ill-fated Tony and Neil try to do an event in London and then the world falls apart. We had a lot of events, the traditional events of go and do book launches and readings and stuff with yourself in London. I was doing stuff in Durham, Stirling, Inverness, Aberdeen, Dundee. I was basically all around the country doing stuff. Everything was lined up. And then, of course, we started to get the rumblings of the virus and, okay, maybe this isn't going to happen. So I thought the book was going to be dead in the water. But they arranged a couple of blog tours and a couple of online events. And then a writer, an up-and-coming Edinburgh writer called Ian Rankin, who you might have heard of.
Who's that?
The Data. He's got a few books in him, I think. Watch him closely. I think he'll be a name. Just on publication day, I put a tweet out saying, you know, Connor Fraser's back, blah, blah, blah. And then Ian came back with this massively fulsome praise about what he said. And the interest in the book just went up from there.
Rising star in crime fiction.
Yeah, which I still can't quite believe.
Now, on that note, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. I've just noticed we're about to hit 15 minutes.
Sorry, rabbiting
No, not at all. But thank you very much. And